Listen, I have been fucking complaining about Darth Maul coming back to life since it first happened. Like I've hated it. I always hated it because it does damage. It means death means less in Star Wars. And now what you're seeing a lot for this excuse for the Sabine thing is like Darth Maul got cut in half and still lived. Why are you complaining? It's like, bro, I've been complaining. Like I've been complaining about that. That doesn't mean the Sabine thing is okay. But it's now an argument that's like in favor of it. And it just sucks.
Darth Maul coming back is not the problem. It's the leadership involved with Lucasfilm and Star Wars is the problem now. That's my problem. George introduced a lot of dumb shit over the years. It's the leadership involved now that's the problem, not Darth Maul coming back.
So I think that Darth Maul coming back is, I think that when you do something like that, it changes the way death can be interpreted in the story, right?
And when you actively change films that existed for all those years, you can pretty much do anything, which George did long before, all this. So like
100%. And like, I like most of what George did. I also criticize some stuff that George did, including that. And I've been criticizing that for over a decade. But what I mean is you continue to see it have ramifications for things that maybe you didn't think it would initially when it happens with this shit. The idea that someone get bisected and fall kilometers down a shaft and end up living, a decade later that causes problems. But the whole Sabine thing, this is just something we've seen in Disney Star Wars because lightsabers now mean nothing. Whether it's the Grand Inquisitor, oh, well, he's got two stomachs. So it's okay. Then Reva. It's just over and over again.
While Ryan's ranting, he's absolutely correct. Even Disney knows lightsabers mean nothing to no one because they are running a massive sale, which they've never done at their theme parks, where you can get lightsabers 30% off. And some people are saying that they're doing a shocking 50% off. It's just unadvertised.
Yeah, I mean, well, it is. I mean, Star Wars in general is useless.
Nobody cares. Nobody even wants to buy them at this point.
Yeah. Nobody cares. I mean, like, I look at the Darth Maul thing as kind of unfucking up a fuck up. This character was super cool. We shouldn't have killed him off. Let's bring him back because so many people want him back. That's what I look for, bringing Darth Maul back. To Ryan's point, I get what he's saying, but none of these problems were a problem until Disney Star Wars took over. Regardless if Darth Maul came back or not, it doesn't matter. This is always going to happen under Disney. They just don't care about Star Wars. The decisions they're making, the things they're doing, it's a regime problem. It's not a Star Wars problem.
Yeah, but as much as I like Darth Maul, I didn't want him back because it's like once you bring him back, nobody can die in Star Wars anymore. What's the point? Just cut someone in half and it's not a big deal.
I think he was never intended to be that deep or that crazy of a character. He was just supposed to be pure aggression, pure fighting, right? And it was just like this rage and fucking physicality in the Force. And to me, I thought it was always cool because you have these different enemies that you get to see throughout the prequels that are like all different manifestations of the dark side or of evil in some way, shape, or form. You have Darth Maul, who is just somebody who's just completely been manipulated by his anger, his hate, his rage. He's just a physical machine. Then you have somebody who's kind of the opposite in Dooku, who doesn't really let his rage or anger or anything affect him, but his is really all about power and seeing how the Jedi have let this entire world down, the responsibility they have with that power, and the control they can utilize with it. And maybe even what's right for the galaxy to do something like that, this warped way of thinking. Then you have Grievous, who is this cyborg hybrid and this indication of what Vader is going to turn into. So I just thought it was like a very cool, all these different characters that were never really meant to be more than they were, but they're all these different manifestations showing the different paths to evil and to the dark side and where Anakin would eventually head. Obviously, you want to give the fans what they want, but you also have to keep in mind the ramifications that it has on your world, right? Say the fans really want this mystery fucking Inquisitor in the Ahsoka series to be Qui-Gon Jinn, right? And fans are just fucking, they really want it. They really want it. They wish Qui-Gon wasn't dead. Like, if you make a decision to bring him back in that way, it can have big ramifications on the way people feel about it. Verisimilitude, you have to be able to believe that something is real. There has to be like established stuff in the universe, right? Even if it's a science fiction thing, even if it's a fantasy land, there has to be some rules to make you understand and believe that when certain things happen, they have consequences. And like, to me, that's the Darth Maul thing. I know there were some people that were excited to see him, but overall, when you do something like that, well, now, why is Dooku? I mean, Dooku could just survive as a floating head, right? Like, why not? You know what I mean? Like all these questions.
It was a missed opportunity to get rid of him so quickly is all I'm saying from that standpoint. So from a storytelling standpoint, they were righting a wrong is what it felt like, filling that void, and people really enjoyed it. It wasn't forced as much as it felt like it was earned by the fans. and that's where I just look at it and think, okay, that makes sense. I can understand where they're coming from with that. And then they did do a lot more with the character after they brought him back. It wasn't just like they just brought him back for the sake of bringing him back. It seemed like they brought him back for a certain reason, and then they had a plan to continue on his story as well.
They put him in the Solo movie.
Yeah, it's like it. Then all of a sudden, then you go from that, and it's like now Darth Maul has to be leading like basically a drug ring, like a drug cartel, like in the fucking for like a decade. And when it comes to the whole bleeding aspect, now again they changed like. The one time you do see blood with a lightsaber is that first scene where you see Obi-Wan take off that guy's arm in the cantina. Other than that, they established very quickly that lightsabers cauterize wounds.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why you can very easily survive a limb being cut off by a lightsaber, because it's so hot that it immediately cauterizes the wound and there's no bleeding. That's one of the downsides towards when you put it in someone's body. Think of what a lightsaber did to the massive
Qui-Gon when he stuck the saber through the
exactly as
shield.
soon as you put it in there, like it starts heating up because it's just so fucking hot. Imagine putting that in someone's body and what it does to all the surrounding tissue. And that's kind of what we're looking at when we're talking about the Sabine thing.
Yeah, it would just boil everything inside.